Hello everyone, Pastor Ryan here. There's a wonderful passage in my evening sermon text for this Sunday that contains a word that needs to be seen in the Greek to be better understood. The passage is Ephesians chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. And today we're going to look at the Greek here because it's tremendously helpful for true understanding of the text. Remember, the Bible is inspired in its original languages. And today we're going to use the free online software Step Bible from the Tyndale House and their Greek to help us today. So let's jump in. Paul's just finished talking about the wonderful reality of how Gentiles have been included with the Jews as the people of God. And in verse 14, Paul begins to talk about prayer. But before he talks about his prayers, he briefly talks about the Father here. And now, and what he says is, from the Father, every family in heaven and on earth is named. Now, there's different translations of this phrase here, every family, right here. And some translate it as the whole family, as in a singular group, and others translate it here as every family. What I want to do today is focus on something else. So I explained this in my evening sermon this Sunday, September 18th, 2022. But focusing on what I want to do is instead focus on this word here for family. Family. And to better focus on it, let's look at the Greek. Paul says, ekatu, from whom, pasa, every or whole, patria, family, in heaven, and upon the earth is named. Upon the earth is named. And you may notice that the Greek word for family here is patria. And it looks a lot like the Greek word for father, patera. And you are right, because the root word is pater for both words. And in fact, you could better translate this word for family more literally as something like fatherhood or something like that. It was a word that meant the father and the family of whom he was the head. And this demonstrates the biblically inspired position that a family is a unit under the headship of the Father. Just as we, the church, are a family under the headship of God the Father, the normal family is defined as under the headship of the Father. And this is extremely foreign to today's world. And I can understand why, because toxic masculinity, as I talk so much about, is a real evil in this world. But Ephesians 3:15 is not defining toxic masculinity, but biblical masculinity in the biblical family. Now, why do we care so much about the biblical family? Because the family is a most basic building block of the church and society. The Industrial Revolution brought men and women out of the home and changed something important. The family, the home, is, according to the Bible, supposed to be a center of health and productivity, education and worship. Don't believe me? Well, read Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 through 9, and Proverbs 31 carefully. As the family is being torn apart today through pornography and the sexual revolution, the church and society are suffering. People are forgetting the biblical virtues of courage, steadfastness, and loyalty because they are walking really in intellectual circles, trying to affirm every desire that flies through their impressionable hearts. If we would only remember that the Bible is absolute truth, and that this truth says in Ephesians 3:15 that the family is fundamentally a unit headed by a godly man, then church and society would have one necessary building block back in place. Now, you may be wondering, where are women in all this? Well, if you would come and interview women who are following this truth, you will find that these women are some of the most joy-filled, productive, and flourishing women you know. Come to our church and you'll find out.